right on the buzzer, bro. I was over here struggling with my trying to plug in my charger, bro.
Oh man, I actually need to get my charger too.
But you are now watching J.U.K Sports Show. I'm your host here with the homie and my co-host. I am King Ralph. This is the homie Kyle. What's happening, Brody?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you too, bro. Man. But we got a lot to get into. But before we you see the graphic at the bottom of the screen. If you want to book any podcasts, photo shoots, music videos, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. And we got a lot to get into, man. All-Star weekend, some highs and some really, really lows. Everybody's talking about it. But before we get into that part, we're going to go into a segment called Did They Get It Right? So off the rip, we got the Clorox Rising Stars event. They switched up some things. And this is when we created this segment. There was some changes to a couple of different events throughout the weekend. Some new, some they're sticking with changes rather than older formats. So they made a four teams. They broke the rookies and sophomores into 4 teams, and it added some players from the Ignite squad. I don't remember all of the players. I just know they had the likes of like Jaden Hardy. Was definitely one of them, and that was someone I really wanted to see play well, but he didn't play that well. So before we get into all of that, did they get it right with the changing of the format?
I actually kind of like the format, quite frankly. I actually thought it was pretty cool, especially I still love the skills challenge. That was cool. The Rising Stars, and I actually thought that in terms of for a weekend in Cleveland, right? You're going to spend a weekend in Cleveland, which I don't want to, deter anyone or alienate our Cleveland fans out there, but you got to bring some type of excitement. And I actually like the format, quite honestly, Ralph. I think that Adam Silver's in charge of these different things. I think since he's actually been the commissioner, quite frankly, I think that he's done a good job of just bringing more viewership to the NBA in terms of the All-Star game and the All-Star weekend. Excuse me, I'm stumbling over my words. So I didn't have a problem with the format, quite frankly. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. What do you think?
Me too, man. I thought it brought some excitement. I think the round that they did, what would you call it? The contest that they did in between games. It wasn't throughout all of the games. I don't believe so.
No, it wasn't throughout all of them.
But I want to say the later games they did where they had different teams go through 5 iconic shots that were done in the playoffs. Magic Johnson hook shot to win the game. The Dame Lillard step back. The Charles Barkley sidestep from the top of the key. The Reggie Miller push off runaway 3 against the Bulls, and then the Ray Allen backstep to the corner with the Heat. I thought that was really cool. It gives you some a point of history for people that don't know about some of the ones from the 90s and earlier before that. So I thought that was really cool, especially with it being the Rising Stars. You kind of let your with the Rising Stars, you're going to get a younger crowd who's trying to watch them. So you're teaching them history at the same time. I think they got it. I think they got the whole event right on that one. I thought that was really dope thing to do as well. Off to the next one. They got the Taco Bell Skills Challenge. They changed that from an individual thing to teams of 3.
Yep.
They had first round was shooting, second round was passing, third round was the relay, fourth round was the half court shot, which is the final round. And so I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a really good change. I think they got that right as well. It does add a little bit more excitement. And it extends the event a little bit more too.
Yeah, it was fun. And also it was kind of cool because when you think about 3, I look at the Antetokounmpo brothers, the fact that you actually had a family, a trio, you know what I'm saying? It kind of reminds me of it makes me think what if all Walton brothers were good enough to make the NBA and they did the skill challenge back in the day or something, because Bill had, him and his 2 sons. And so you had that. And
all brothers here.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. That would be really cool, man. And it's funny because not just them, but seeing a big like a Jared Allen and seeing him weave through the cones and do different things of that nature. And I think it was really fun, lighthearted challenge. And one thing that I really thought was interesting was it seemed like a lot of these people, the speed of the challenge, right? When they did the cone one, right, the little relay thing, they couldn't necessarily keep the time. It's like they couldn't keep it under the time. And Reggie kept saying, you don't have to make these. You don't have to make these shots. He's like, just chuck it. And so they were trying to like make the shots, and that was kind of the one thing that held a lot of the teams back. But it was kind of cool just kind of see him scramble. And you could see like Giannis, he was like pissed off when they didn't make the time and everything. So
yeah. that we want back is the care. Because even like go back to the Pro Bowl. We talked about the Pro Bowl and things like that. Remember back in the day, they did the flag football in the sand. Like we remember watching those things, and you could tell that they cared,
right?
About even if it's just the head to head, my brothers and go against your brothers, we won type of thing. Like it still was like you still wanted to feel that passion.
Yes.
Or even though it is something that you could get hurt doing, and even though it is something that you're not making money from, but you possibly could make money from it because you're gonna go like when you play 2K, it's the pop, it's you get the follows, and then those follows is what leads to the endorsements.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what it can lead to. Next thing, 3-point contest.
Cat, yes.
Cat wins. Not the first big man.
Right.
Not the first big man because we had the likes of when you think about height, Larry Bird was 6'9".
6'9". Could play power forward, small forward.
Dirk at power forward. Definitely will play small ball 5.
Yeah. So
he's not the first, but
he's like the first center, right? Like the first center.
True.
In this.
You can say that.
Yeah. Right. Because Jokic, I'm actually interested to see if Jokic would ever enter the 3-point shootout in the future. Because he got a nice 3-ball.
That'll be interesting.
But
also, yeah. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was dope.
Mm-hmm.
It is crazy how the evolution of the game is we're getting to a point where the 3-ball is starting to. We care more about the 3-point contest than we do about the dunk contest. But I think that's interesting. I think it's dope. I thought it was a really good contest. It's always competitive when Steph is in there.
Yeah.
I'm tired. My man Zach shoots very well in these contests. It's just there's a certain level that you have to get to in these contests, and he's always like close but not there.
Right. Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Actually, the 3-point contest has become my favorite contest during the NBA All-Star Weekend, Ralph. Like it really has, because you had the Splash Brothers at one point in the past when you have Steph Curry, who now is revered as the greatest shooter of all time. And so for him to not be there in the contest, and you have other players, some players who aren't at his level, obviously, in terms of superstardom, but still being able to put in a good show. That's what I like about the 3-point contest, is because unlike the dunk contest, which we'll get to, right, you don't have to be a superstar and you can still put on a great show for the fans. And these people are performing pretty well. You don't see a lot of people airballing shots. You have Trae Young, who started off slow, but then middle of the rack, he started to get hot. You had Luke Kennard, who I thought would win. You have people of all shapes and sizes, the bigs, like a Karl Anthony Towns, right? Who was just in a rhythm the entire time. Then you have the short guys, like a Fred VanVleet. And so my whole mindset, because I'm not sure who did you pick to win initially? Who was your first?
I'm my boy Zach.
Oh, yeah, Zach, my bad. Why should I ask?
One of my boys, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The night before, I'm sitting there smoking out on the porch, and I'm looking at stuff, and I'm like, if I was a betting man, I would put money on Cat.
I'm not mad at that.
He can shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody's really going to pick him. Everybody's going to go with one of the smaller guys or Steph.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Cat go far.
I feel you on that.
But
he did.
Like, my boy Zach, man, that's
But you know what? I thought it was a cool list. I thought it was really good contestants because everyone who they picked really shot a high percentage from the three. But I'll give you a little quick insight on my thinking. I was like, okay, well, if you're smaller, right? And the three ball was never my thing, and I could play really well. I could slash and I had a mid range. But the three ball, it was just more due to the fact that I didn't have the range. Some people just don't have the range. So you have to work on your range, right?
Right.
So I never really had the range, and so I'm like, okay, well, the shorter guys, they have to use more of their legs to get up. So I'm like, Fred VanVleet and some of these other guys aren't going to be there. Then I thought, was it Baines? Is it Desmond Baines? Is that his name? Or yeah, I'm like, I said he has muscles for no reason, so he's not going to be able to.
That's as big as my head. Like, bro, why are you that big?
He's all brolic. I was like, you don't need to be that brolic. You look like a tight end. I'm like, you're not going to win because I'm thinking the people that shoot well in the games, not all of them are going to shoot like from the 3-point shootout. So I'm thinking Luke Kennard had that like NBA Live, NBA 2K 3-point shootout look. And for some reason, like nobody was picking him to win. I'm like, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I'm like, I'm picking Luke Kennard. I'm like, bro, like Luke Kennard is nice with this stuff. So I'm thinking he's going to win this joint. And then, like you said, Cat went on to win. So for me personally, that was actually it's one of the most looked forward to events for me during the NBA All-Star Weekend. I thoroughly enjoyed it, man.
And so on to the dreadful dunk contest.
Oh man.
As a person that's like find positives and things,
yeah,
I'm still not willing to concede just throwing away the whole event.
No, it's different, right?
I think you should have a certain level of maybe you should just maybe a certain amount of dunks to qualify, or a fan vote. And then, like, you kind of give like you pretty much talk to a list of like, let's just say you get 15 people who are willing to participate, and you go and because I'm gonna assume that they got it wrong because me and you have talked about this. So I'm not even gonna ask the question of did they get it right, but how do we fix it? We're trying to get solutions here at this point. But I just feel like at a certain point they need to do something different. I don't know if it's getting guys from G League and letting them participate in it, because you already let. This is the thing for me. I understand what they're trying to do with the Ignite team because those are players that can be possibly drafted. But I feel like at a certain point you're kind of showing favoritism. So if you're gonna do that and then let people be in, and you're gonna let people be in your event because they're already doing a G League All-Star game earlier in the day on Saturday. Anyway, it's either Saturday or Sunday. They do it. They do it on a G League All-Star game. Just put it all together. Let some of them participate in the dunk contest, and see what happens. Because I think when you see those people that are playing on Ball is Life, you start to see all these people with so much creativity. But it's like if you care about the game as a whole, it doesn't care if they're in the NBA or the G League. If they're in the G League, let them rock.
Yeah, and that's an extension of the NBA there, where you have people that you bring up, you promote, you send down, et cetera, for development. You know what I'm saying? So it's owned by the NBA. I feel you on that. And I hate. Here's how I think you can fix it. And I hate to piggyback on other individuals, but if you have a good idea, and I'm all ears, I'm very objective. And if I like the idea and I would get behind it, I'm going to go with it. But I actually did see this morning. I did actually watch it in terms of the show breaking down the Stephen A's dunk contest, because I saw that he went on a rant. So I'm like, all right, like going on a rant. He actually proposed a good idea, Ralph. Here's what he said. You remember the show Rhythm and Flow on Netflix?
Yes.
I mentioned that because you know how they got the rappers from different cities. He said this. You have the NBA players sponsor a dunker from each city. So what you do is you go out and you go to all the cities. You go to New York, go to Rucker Park, go to Miami. He said, go to South Central LA, go to some of the places in Chicago, right? Where you have like the best hoopers. Like we could go to, the neighborhoods or the hoods where you have these elite dunkers that we know. Some of these people we might have seen on And One Street Ball mixtape back in the day, that kind of ilk, right? And he said, why don't you actually go out and get a dunker from each of those cities, right? The best dunker, and they get sponsored by the NBA player, not monetarily, but just to represent, right? And then you hold a contest, and the number one first place gets $1 million. Second place gets 500,000, which is $500,000, and then third place gets 100,000. And if you choose to, you can send some money to a charity of an athlete choosing, right? And you can have a dunk contest that way. And so you actually have it on a more of a national scale that, NBA players and viewers and everybody will want to watch. And then I think our friend, shout out to Tarian, he actually promoted he actually came up with an idea similar to that before Stephen A did, like a couple of days ago, when he was like, it was kind of like that, but he said, have them compete versus the NBA players. So now it's like, okay, we got to up our game, because I don't know if you saw Ja in his post game or his little his press conference. He said that, when I feel like it, I'll do it. But then he told Reggie, he's like, yeah, most definitely. So what is it, Ja? I was like, are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? Because all that nonchalant when I feel like it, because no one's forcing you. But
I think is when you're talking to someone who's been in the league, you have and if you heard Reggie was saying, I'm begging you.
Yeah, exactly.
Please. Yes. So it's like when you get someone that with that ilk, like Reggie Miller, we never really thought Reggie is the nicest, but we had respect for Reggie.
right.
Editor.
He was a clutch player.
He was clutch. So it's like, regardless of how you look at him, if you go back, watch the clips, the tape don't lie. Reggie was nice. And he's begging you to participate.
And hey, Reggie could have had a few chips if it wasn't for MJ and Shaq and Kobe. He might have 2 rings.
Right. And that Malice in the Palace, but that's
3 rings.
But for the sake of time, we're going to go on. But this, I'm not going to bring up the game because there wasn't many changes within it.
Yes.
It's the same things, but I do like the change. Well, we can definitely probably agree on that. But I'm gonna let you rock first. What was your favorite moment?
My favorite moment of NBA All-Star Weekend, quite honestly, it was the game. And I'm gonna say that it was you know what? Can I have more than one?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, first I'll rock. I'll pick 2.
All right, so right. We don't play by the rules. We're rebels, man. Child rebel soldier. But anyway, Steph Curry. I gotta give Steph Curry love. I know they talk about him all the time, but Steph Curry, man, he truly is the best shooter out there of all time, because this dude was pulling up from Bora Bora, and so when you shooting from Bora Bora and you do 15 threes or 14 threes, Ralph. At some point, I was like, bro, this is getting ridiculous. The fact that he had Cavs fans cheering for him in their respective city, a city where he won 2 rings. I know it's an all-star game, but they did boo him. And then it seemed like that kind of gave him some fuel to go on and do what he did. So I got to give Steph Curry. And then, some might say, LeBron, because he hit that shot. And that was nice. I ain't going to lie. That was nice, man.
Y'all know how I feel about LeBron. And I'm to criticize him. But
facts.
That was a shot.
But hey, when he hit that shot, I was like, I knew they're gonna make a GOAT debate, and they did. But anyway,
it's still not a better shot than that Mike shot.
There we go. And that's where I'm glad you mentioned Mike. My last point, second to Mike, bro. Our basketball Lord and Savior, Michael Jordan, bro. Bro, I sent you that video, right? You know the video I sent you. Magic and Michael and Dwayne Wade and Gary Payton and all these NBA top 75 players were in the back. I think they're in the locker room, whatever. And so he's like, he's the old dog right there. Michael Jordan points to Magic Johnson, and Magic Johnson's key, and he's like, he, And he's like, where your shoes at? Put them on right now. I'll play you 1-on-1 right now. And Gary Payton was like, damn. And your boy Wade looked at Magic like, what you gonna do?
You gonna hoop him out, bro? What you finna do?
Yo, Ralph, Mike's face was so serious.
Serious.
Bro.
he looked dead serious.
Bro.
He couldn't be more serious.
Facts. I was like, that should end any type of debate or whatever. Just his competitive drive and fervor. The key never turns off. So I actually enjoyed it because it was funny, and I even showed my dad the video. So those are my 2 moments: Steph Curry and Michael being Michael that we know of.
Yeah. For me, man, the game itself, was dope. I think it was you got to see some of that. You got to see the competitive drive still going, like where each team winning a quarter, they tied in the third quarter, and you still saw him playing hard. Joel Embiid was hooping like he has been, and he was when he seen that he had Jokic at him, he went at him every time. And that was the part for me that like I really thought that was dope. Then with it being top 75, me and you both grew up with this love and passion for the game. So much history, some things I learned during that the TNT segment where they picked the teams.
Yeah.
And this part had me cracking up. I didn't bring it up when we were talking about it, but the part where Candace Parker realized or found out that Bill Sharma was the reason they had shooter around. That and Jerry West confirmed it, and I was just like, bro, that is comedy. That is funny. Like, so they had him at a certain point, and he was like, "Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna pick him."
Right. Like, Jerry, do you like shoot around? He's like, hell no.
Right.
The way he said it, bro.
And it's like when Will told him straight up, he was like, "So you want me to show up for the game? Or you want me to show up for shoot around?"
Shout out to Will, bro. Yo, Will have, if anyone's had never seen some of his interviews too, by the way, the perfect plug. Will just knew how to talk about anything. Very charismatic.
Very true. I thought it was all in all. What's your grade on it?
On the game itself or the weekend?
The weekend.
I think I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Even though the dunk contest didn't live up to, obviously and everything like that. But I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because I think just the fact that we got a chance to appreciate the game's greatest players, right? The top 75. And when you look at the All-Star game, Ralph, right, it's always it's necessarily, it's the stars, the best of the best, or the stars, as David Stern used to say, rest in peace. And so the fact that you had the ultimate stars there was amazing. And then I'll end it with this. One thing with the dunk contest, though. Yes, they missed a lot of the dunks. To me, it really was bad. Just by personal preference, it was really bad. But also, I think that they've never really been able to live up to the Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon one. And it's kind of unfair because that one, to me, Vince Carter is the best dunker, but in terms of the most creative between two individuals, because Aaron Gordon might have got robbed. Maybe.
Oh, he definitely got robbed in the other one with Wayne. They gave him a 9 or something like that.
That was the second one, I think. Yeah. So I think
you can argue he won with Zach LaVine, but I just feel like Zach won.
Yeah. So
that's my personal opinion.
And so long story short, it's the fact that I feel like that was such a monumental one.
And it's like
we can go to YouTube and rewatch it. It was just so good, man. You feel me? So I feel like the expectation for the dunk contests are.
It's like many times, and I watch a lot of stories, and it's like when like drug addicts start talking about the first high they ever got. It's like when you have those highs, it's like you're always chasing that one, and it's you got that Spud Webb versus Dominique, you got Dominique versus Mike. What was that? D Brown and Sean Kemp. You got
Jamal Mashburn one.
Yeah, you got
not Jamal Mashburn, Jason Richardson. I would say
right. The Jason Richardson and what was it, Desmond?
Yeah. Gerald Green was one too. I remember that one.
Gerald Green blowing the cupcake candle out. You got Vince and T Mac, Steve Francis in that one, and then you got that Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon one. It's like you're looking for that next one, but it's like they don't come every year. So it's like at a certain point, what was that? Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's like we're due for another good one.
Right.
It just didn't come this year. So hopefully we can get some stars to be in it next year or change the format up to see what happens. But for the sake of time, we got to move on. We got 6 minutes to discuss Coach Juwan Howad slapping the taste out of Wisconsin assistant coach. I'm going to let you take the lead on this one because you actually had some stuff and some good stuff. Right,
so I talked to one of my homies who is from Michigan, right? Former coach, actually, not a coach at Michigan, but she actually coached over at, I believe it was Sierra Heights or Sierra Canyon over in I think it was high school. But she's from Michigan, and obviously she's a Wolverines fan, and we were talking about Juwan Howard and the situation. And so I said, I absolutely do not condone his actions. However, I believe there's a lot of fake outrage, respectfully, fake outrage to the incident, because I look at what transpired with him, so much so that there was a full 30-30 documentary on Bobby Knight, and it was really about his antics, quite frankly, and what people took away from that, right? And there was a lot of scandals involved and all that kind of stuff. But she said this. She asked me if I actually saw the full video of terms like what was being said and different things of that nature. So here's what she provided me. She said, I saw the on-court video of the altercation, and you can hear Juwan say to guard, I'll remember that, in regards to him calling a late timeout that Juwan didn't like. Then once Juwan said that he never stopped walking, was trying to walk past. Then guard grabbed his arm and pulled him back. That's when you see them jawing back and forth and sticking hands in each other's faces. Then the players and other coaches step in the middle. One of the Wisconsin assistants pushed Musa Diabate and Terrence Williams. And that's when Juwan reached over and slapped the Earth, Wind, and Fire out of the assistant coach. She didn't say the Earth, Wind, and Fire, but I added that. Right. You know what I mean? So you touch the player, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? So you're already in a hot situation. You know, the block is hot. The block is hot. Shout out to the Wheezy and the Hot Boys. You know what I'm saying? So, and Juwan Howard also being a player. And I just want to say this real quick before we talk about, punishment. Guys like a Penny Hardaway, guys like a Juwan Howard, right? And I'm not saying like when you say, what do you mean with guys like? I'm talking about former players. They're going to be on edge, especially, I'm just going to say it as a black head coach, right? You know what I'm saying? And you trying to deal with these young men and, how you're going to coach and different things and the media coming at you and all that kind of stuff. And you're a former player, so you have this edge about you. As if you're a former NBA player, you're going to have this edge. And so Juwan Howard, being in the lion's den, so to speak, I kind of understand, some of that, emotion, but it doesn't make it right. Now, should he lose his job? Absolutely not. So they suspend, because at the end of the day, nobody was truly, truly harmed, right? And at the end of the day, also, it's not being a fair law of checks and balances where nothing occurred to the Wisconsin head coach.
Sure.
So I always thought, when I found out, you're suspending, cool. But then I see people like Chris Broussard over here just like totally just going in on Juwan Howard and saying all kinds of, oh, man, it's egregious. He should lose his job forever. He should do this, blah, 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 blah. He's just like, I'm like, bro, you just over here tap dancing like crazy. I'm like, what? Right. He just went in on Juwan Howard, like completely in. It was like way out of left field. I was like, what, did he strangle somebody? So that's me, my little short diatribe of it. But
especially for me, I feel like the suspension, cool, I get it. Even if nothing happens to the other coach, but losing his job, I would really have a problem.
Right.
Especially after some of the stuff that's happened with other coaches.
Right. Like, on and off the field.
And off the field. Players been feeling like the coach is racist, the coach saying stuff, and the only time it ever happens, not because it came out to light, but because the team was losing.
Right.
And your coach is racist. He's racist. Let's get him out of here. No, he was not producing for you the way you wanted him to. And that's when they start to kick people out. And that's why, like, for me personally, I would extremely disagree. Just even if the other coach had no play in it, it just was him walking up, they get into an argument, he smacked somebody just from arguing. But
right.
I still don't think that's, yes, you should deserve punishment for that. But at the end of the day, when you look into the what things that you said, even from watching the video, you can see the other coach has a hand in escalating the situation.
Yeah, because what we were always taught, at least I know what I was taught, I'm sure you were taught the same, coming up, someone invades your space, is like, wow. And the moment you touch somebody, especially someone that you don't know, oh, heck no. You know what I'm saying? Because even Juwan said, I'm protecting myself and protecting, you know what I'm saying? So, hey, what do we call it? Fight or flight response, man.
Right.
But you want to make him lose his job and all that. Okay, cool. All right, so let him lose his job, and then Michigan will never be anything. All right, cool, fine.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
And Juwan Howard is not just any old Michigan player.
Right. He's Fab Five.
Right.
So, they're
definitely not going to rock with that.
Yeah. Hey, really quickly, can I slide and get this plug in on my computer? All right, cool. Give me a second, guys.
But to move on, that man,
All right.
the very outspoken Richard Sherman,
Yes.
had some very choice words.
Egregious. No,
Specifically talking about how people are saying that Matthew Stafford deserves to be in the Hall.
Yeah.
Whether or not you agree with that, I do agree with his stance.
Yeah.
Because I do think at a certain time, at a certain point, there's some players where they just let them in they just let them in the Hall, and it's like your credentials don't match. You don't got the class, like Shaq would say, you don't got the G14 classification.
You don't got the facilities for that, big man.
Oh, and it's like I do agree with him as a whole, but specifically with Matthew Stafford, no, I disagree with that part, and not because when I bring this up, when you go back and we talked about this off camera.
Yeah.
When you go back and you look up some of the players when you start to think about yards, how many games he played, the team he had, the accolades plus his actual numbers with the team that he had, you start to see that there might have been other things that go back and look into it. Like specifically in, I think John Elway in 86 or 87. John Elway, I want to say it had it on there. I want to I got to confirm.
He was losing championships though, 85 in the AFC championship games, and then before he finally got a chance to break through. But I'm not sure if he had worse teams before that. You probably know a little bit better.
I'm trying to look it up right now, but I want to say John Elway wins the MVP in 87.
Okay.
If you go back and look at those numbers, he throws for a little under 4,000 yards. He has a 56 completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. And he's looked at as a top 10 quarterback of all time.
We're gonna have to have a conversation about Elway sometime off camera too about that, because never mind. I don't look at Elway that highly, but
but when you go and you look up lists of top 10 quarterbacks, these are quarterbacks that are in the Hall of Fame. You go and look up Johnny Unitas.
Yeah.
And this is my thing where we start to have that conversation of millennials versus old heads.
Yes.
Where, at a certain point, the game had to evolve. So it's no disrespect to the Dolph Shays, the George Mikens, the Bill Sharmers, because we had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you can't sit here and say that the way evolution works, that someone like, how they try to say LeBron, LeBron wouldn't be able to do this. And like, this man is 6'9", 260, all muscle, 40-inch vertical, and probably the fastest man on the court.
Right. He's still getting to the rim.
Right.
Like he just because he always likes Tajon Prince even said, like in his own era, he was like, yeah, the issue was once he dipped his shoulder, like if you let him get, turn and get the full head of steam, you can't really stop him. So even if you had like a Hakeem Olajuwon, with all due respect, LeBron's still at least getting to the rim.
Yes.
Because no one on the perimeter is stopping him in any era.
Right.
But continue. Like you feel like Shaq or something like.
When you start to get to a certain point, you start to looking at certain people's numbers, like even Steve Young. I went from 10 to 9 to 8. Steve Young was 8, and I was just like, Steve Young played one season less than Matt Stafford has played at this point.
Yeah.
And he's off by 90 touchdowns. Matt Stafford has 20 more interceptions. They're not even close in yards. But when you start to look at other teams, like the whole team as a whole, it's like, all right, I can't really say that you were better than this player specifically at your position. You played with Jerry Rice. He played with Calvin Johnson. Both of them in their primes. And it's like when we start to look at these things, And it's like, come on, man. Like, I just don't think that specifically with Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
I think that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I think his career says that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He had some really god awful teams in Detroit, although he had Calvin Johnson. But look how bad the team was so bad. Calvin Johnson stopped playing after 8-9 seasons.
Yeah, and Barry Sanders stopped playing after 10.
Right.
We always had the running joke, but it's true. I said with Barry Sanders, Barry Sanders, there's no record of his decline because there isn't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, he's like, I was always in my prime.
Right.
No, I definitely I hear you on that. I hear you on that, Ralph. And so here's my, I guess, arguing the other side, right? And so I have the actual quote that he had. He said, I'm going to talk about it on the podcast, but the Hall of Fame bar is incredibly low now. He said, like a participation trophy. No all-decade team, no all-pro, no MVP, one Pro Bowl, not even MVP of the Super Bowl. Never considered the best in any year he played. At least Matt Ryan has an MVP. And so I know you said that the criteria, or you agree with some of that criteria, but in terms of just Matthew Stafford, due to him being kind of a victim of circumstance. And so kind of like your angle was context, and everyone knows I like context. That's what I do when I rank my players of all time greatest, or even in the league currently. I like to look at context, how much lift you give, your own skill set, level of competition at your own position. So long story short, when I look at a guy like Matthew Stafford, here's what I do acknowledge. I acknowledge that Detroit was never a great football organization, right? So I acknowledge that. But I also acknowledge that his defense was never great. So I acknowledge that. So you have those two things. I believe that he puts up really good counting stats, but also he's been in offenses where you have to air the football out. Even in Sean McVay's offense, he used to make him air the football out at one point in time. But he did play with the greatest wide receiver of his generation in Calvin Johnson. But also Calvin Johnson is arguably the greatest receiver of all time. I don't believe he is, but he's usually in the top three. I mean, the dude was a genetic freak that they had to change how teams covered him. Like, that's how good he was, right? But then I look at when he has those comeback wins, because Dan Orlovsky would always talk about his comeback wins. Why would Matthew Stafford always come back, though? A lot of times, actually, it was due to the fact that he himself was throwing interceptions. And so I kept hearing people coddle over and over and over again. But then this year, I finally got a chance to see it throughout the regular season. They went on this horrible stretch of like the last 6 games where he kept throwing those interceptions. And so he would come back based off his own mistakes. So the defense had to step up. Furthermore, I look at what you do in the postseason. Matthew Stafford played relatively well in the postseason, not exceptional, but then you get to the Super Bowl and Cooper Kupp won the Super Bowl MVP. And if you say, well, who was the second in line for a Super Bowl MVP? People were saying Aaron Donald, and a lot of people, myself, were arguing Aaron Donald number one. It was between Donald and Kupp. So Matthew Stafford wasn't really a thought because he was selling the game in the Super Bowl. So that's kind of where I'm like, how do you perform on the biggest stage? But he does need to get some flowers for at least being able to sustain a drive. You know what I'm saying? Because, hey, Cooper Kupp's there. You will throw him the football. So he should still get props because he's the deliverer of the football, like Matthew Stafford. So my thing is, I've always felt that Matthew Stafford was a good quarterback, but I kind of like the angle where Sherman was like, he was never considered the best or even like top 5 at his position, because you had even a Ben Roethlisberger was considered that. You had all these quarterbacks. And then finally, I like to do quarterback comparisons. If we're just looking at statistics, right? Stafford has more yards than Joe Flacco, right? For his career, but they're both members of the 40,000 pass yard club, right? And Joe Flacco, he's never played with an elite receiver in his prime. His best receiver that he played with when he won the Super Bowl was Torrey Smith, right? And Torrey Smith, no one really talks about him. He played with an old Steve Smith Sr. when the team wasn't even good. So if you look at Joe Flacco's playoff run, right, he had 1,140 pass yards, 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, the highest quarterback rating in NFL history in the postseason, 95.7. He beat Peyton Manning on the road, where he had that huge toss to Jacoby Jones to win the game, and he beat Tom Brady on the road. He put up 34 points on the second-ranked defense in the NFL with Navarro Bowman, Patrick Queen, and others. and he won the Super Bowl MVP. So when I look at the accolades, like whatchamacallit, Richard Sherman said, Stafford won Pro Bowl. That's a fan voted award. It just is. Comeback Player of the Year over a decade ago in 2011, and he's a Super Bowl champ. Flacco's a Super Bowl MVP, and he's a champ, and he has consistently performed at an elite level in the postseason when it matters the most. So my thing is, I feel like if Matthew Stafford gets into the Hall of Fame, then the floodgates should open for some of these other players who aren't even like a Nick Foles, because Nick Foles is a backup. Flacco was actually a starter. So that's kind of where my thing is. It's not so much really saying that Stafford was ever bad, but I feel like he actually had some deficiencies in his game, right? In spite of having a Calvin Johnson, that the narrative was there, but the narrative was actually real for a reason, because he was actually throwing interceptions. Outside of that, I think he's actually a good quarterback. Now, I have a question for you, my last question. Do you think that Matthew Stafford is actually better than Derek Carr? I know I kind of put you on the spot. Do you think he's better than Derek Carr? Because that's hard for me, bro. I think Carr might be better.
I would say yes.
Okay.
I would say yes, but I do think, depending on what type of offense and what type of defense that you have, I do think that like, I would say they're in the same tier.
Yeah, I think all three of them are kind of in the same tier.
I would put them all in the same tier at their primes.
Okay.
I don't think that Joe Flacco's prime was at the level that Derek Carr and
and
he
was really consistent. Yeah,
he just was consistently good, because at one point Derek Carr was an MVP candidate. Matt Stafford puts up the numbers that could put him in an MVP candidate.
That's the thing, statistics.
But it's just, and I think that the one thing that I think is funny when people start talking about Matt Stafford and the amount of interception that he throws, he has a 2-to-1 interception ratio.
That's not bad though.
And it's like like I said, John Elway literally won an MVP throwing 19 of 13.
Yeah, I don't look at Elway that highly though, because that's a whole nother podcast. Like I think Terrell Davis had a huge role in that, but like his MVPs, Super Bowl,
and he's arguably throwing to the greatest tight end, which was the first tight end that was able to move like that.
Yeah, Shannon Sharp,
pretty much a wide receiver in college and bulked up to play tight end in the NFL. But
it's a good discussion.
You look at these numbers of players that played prior, and they're in the top 10, and you start to look at numbers. It's like at a certain point, some rhetorics don't match anymore. Like how's he more interception prone? He's a gunslinger, but he has less interceptions than this person.
I think with the thing that you made earlier about some of the older heads in the NFL Hall of Fame, that we need to evaluate some of the older quarterbacks. Now Unitas, I would say Unitas. Okay, cool. I mean, that's my dad's favorite quarterback, but Unitas really was like without Unitas, you get no Peyton Manning. Like Unitas was actually like nice like that, but it's also a different era,
right?
And I know there's some quarterbacks like I know Eric Dickerson. This was my last little quote. You might have seen this too when Eric Dickerson was on Undisputed like years ago with Shannon Sharp and Terrell Owens. And he was like, he's like, be looking at some of these people in the hall that be getting yellow jackets. And we're like, you wasn't like that. He's like, we know what a Hall of Famer is, Skip. You feel what I'm saying? And so Stafford, he's not quite there for me. But if you put him in there, I'm just going to say, hey, I just know what my guy Flacco did, because not only did he win, but he was also a Lee Evans drop pass and a Billy Cundiff missed field goal from winning 3 Super Bowls potentially. You feel me? So, some things could have went his way. He could have multiple rings. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is.
But I think a lot of that, some of that boils down to the reason why I'll say, and I'll make this final point is, when you start to look at like the situations where you look at everything as a whole. Mm-hmm. It makes it so much easier for you to get to a playoff if your defense is only giving up 18 points a game.
That's true.
Where I literally got to go out there and I got to throw 3-4 touchdowns every game for us to even have a chance to even be able to be in the game.
That's true. That is true. Because their defense were like, it was kind of like them old Cowboys defenses. Yeah. But I think Romo had a little more weaponry, right? Because he had Terrence Williams and T.O. and Garrett or Witten.
Then he had Miles Austin at one point, who was balling for 3 seasons. Like,
and Murray. I think DeMarco Murray was there one year. It's like that shit. Yeah. So I think it's fair. It's fair. Yeah.
But that's the reason why, like me personally. Plus, I still think Matt Stafford got at least another 2-3 seasons.
Oh no, I still think he's going to play. I don't know why he wouldn't continue, but he doesn't look like a Big Ben at the end of his career. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with you, bro.
And so, we're gonna spend a couple quick seconds. Brian Flores hired by the Steelers. I believe he's a linebacker coach and assistant defensive coach. Is this a legit hire?
I believe it is a legit hire because we got to look at it like this. One, Brian Flores, he had no business of being relieved of his duties in Miami, what he was able to do. Also, there was a conflict of interest in the quarterback situation. And so I don't, wish well on when I say don't wish well, I'm not talking about anything like, malicious. But in terms of the Miami situation, I'm talking about karma, you know what I'm saying, with that situation. I do believe in karma. I believe Mike Tomlin did a good job of looking out for him, but also doing what was in the best interest of his team. And this kind of goes back to Ralph, what we always talk about with the Steelers and Mike Tomlin always being in the thick of things, always being able to be a playoff contender, always never counting the Pittsburgh Steelers out. And I know this probably better than anyone as a rival fan, a Baltimore Ravens fan. And so I think adding a Brian Flores to that team is going to be key when you know that your most potent factor of your team is your defense with a Hayward, with a TJ Watt, the sacks leader, and now the defensive player of the year, and rightfully so, with a Minka Fitzpatrick. So I think being able to continue that lineage over there in Pittsburgh, that's really, really cool. Also, Brian Flores being able to be a leader of men, being underneath that Brian Billick coaching tree is going to be really, really cool. So I think that's still cool. I still believe he still has his grievance with the NFL, obviously, and getting that situated. But overall, I'm just happy for Brian Flores. I just hope that the Ravens put up 34 points every time we play him personally. But every other team that he goes up against, I hope he does really well. So yeah, it was a legit hire, man.
I'm actually curious to see what happens with this man because I get like me, we follow it, and both of us black men. Brian Flores came out and he was very brash about the whole kneeling. Situation. He didn't actually appease to what people believed. He's his own man, and he clearly made a difference on that football team.
Yes.
Previous to him being there, and what he was able to do might not have resulted in wins the way that the owner would have liked it, although they were just a much better team. But at the end of the day, he proved that he's a legit coach in the NFL. Regardless of race, whatever you want to say, how he feels or what he represents, leader of men, his defense has played amazing. He's gonna take that defense. I believe if he gets to actually sink his teeth into that defense, he's gonna take that defense to another level. Which is gonna be interesting because they're gonna really need it if they're gonna have Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback.
If you have no quarterback, you have no team.
No team, and they got obviously the worst quarterback in the whole division.
What happened to Troy Ave? He's still backing him up, I think. AKA Dwayne Haskins, Troy Ave.
Also, he's Ohio State quarterbacks.
That's your school, man. You gotta stick with him, man. I thought you said what's his face was your Troy, whatever, was your favorite quarterback of all time, man. No.
College quarterback, maybe.
I'm just messing with you, bro.
That's not even the case. But yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what happens with this. It's gonna be interesting.
Terrell Pryor.
Hey, that one though.
He played for your squad too.
He could have been so much better if they'd have just left him alone about them signing signatures and autographs, merch. Yeah. Look, his college career was ruined because
off some merch, bro.
Autographs.
That had me heated.
Like that's so crazy. That's
wild. The number one high school recruit in the nation. Like, what are you talking about? He could play like 3 positions, but anyway.
Right. And he was a decent wide receiver too. That's how crazy of an athlete he was.
He was able to When we talk about errors, this players being able to play multiple positions, bro.
he had 1,000-yard season too.
With the Browns, I think.
Or was close to it. If
Yeah.
it wasn't a 1,000-yard season, he had over 800 yards.
All right.
But on to the next one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one.
All right. So
NBA coaches and your thoughts.
Yeah.
Do you want to go through the list, or you just want to give what stood out to you?
Okay, so what stood out? I'll just go with what stood out for me for the sake of time. And you can do it however way you want to do it. But for me, there's one coach on here, and I don't want to put the brother man down, obviously, because there's some other brothers on there. But there's one guy that stands out there like a sore thumb.
All right. And at this point, we're gonna.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Look, man, this man is a man of integrity, right? A man who he's a nice guy in quotation marks, right? His son is in the league currently. And he's been in a couple of different teams. Son played at Duke, went to Winter Park, Florida, right? And his last name is Rivers, and I'm not talking about Chris Rivers, the son of Big Pun. I am talking about Doc Rivers. Look, man, let me tell you something about Doc, right? Doc is a good motivational speaker. If I want to, watch what's that dude, Eric, whatever, the motivational speaker guy. If I want to listen to Ray Lewis, I'm not saying he's on the level of Ray Lewis. Doc is a great motivational speaker. But every time I see Doc Rivers, I think of that that video that surfaced during the bubble with Phil Jackson in the 2010 NBA Finals when they're going against the Boston Celtics. He's like, this team has blown more 15-point leads than any other team in the NBA. He took Doc Rivers' soul, bro. Look, man, Doc Rivers has the most 3-1 leads blown in NBA history. It just is what it is, man. And so I gotta bring out some receipts, man. Look, bro. Look, man. All right. So the big three Celtics, 4 Hall of Famers, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo, Ray Allen. They only won 1 ring in 5 seasons together. Now, I'm actually on the other side. I used to think that they did underachieve. I don't necessarily think they underachieved. When we look at the ages, and you have to factor in, Ralph, that Kevin Garnett got injured in 2009. Had he not got injured, he was the anchor of their defense. The Orlando Magic, let's be real, probably aren't going to be there, right? But I still don't think they win because Kobe was on a mission in 09. But Tom Thibodeau implemented the defensive game plan on that team, and we saw what he was able to do with the Knicks. Then that same year, they went 7 games, not in just one series, Ralph, but in 2 series. The first was against the Atlanta Hawks. You might remember that series, right? And the next was against the Cavaliers. With all due respect to LeBron James, they had no business going 7 games with the Cavaliers, a team that constantly had problems with the Boston Celtics, which led LeBron to running to Miami. And then the key for me, Ralph, with that issue I have with Doc is not in Orlando, because he really had nothing in Orlando, was the Clippers. Two renditions of the Clippers. He had 3 All-NBA players, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, arguably the greatest sixth man of the year, and Jamal Crawford is usually between him, Lou Will, and Manu Ginobili, one of the greatest shooters in JJ Redick, and extremely deep bench. They never made an NBA Finals, and they never made a Western Conference Finals. Yet, however, I know how you feel about Chris Paul. I know that's one of your favorite point guards, might be your favorite point guard. Every time he goes to a team, he automatically improves that. He did it in OKC when they lost a top 10 player in Paul George, a former league MVP, and Russell Westbrook. What did they do? They went to the NBA playoffs. Then you look at the Houston Rockets. They go to the conference finals. Had he not got injured, they probably go to the NBA. Phoenix. They're a bubble team, right? They missed the playoffs. He goes to the Phoenix Suns. They go to the NBA Finals. Yet the only time that doesn't happen is when you have your best team, but you're within, he doesn't make the conference finals or the NBA Finals. So that shows me that there's a problem there. Then my last point is the Kawhi and PG Clippers. You blew a 3-1 lead in the to Denver. We can talk about Paul George. Yes, he deserves blame. We can talk about Kawhi Leonard in Game 7. Yes, they both deserve blame. But you were persistent and you stuck with a Montrezl Harrell, who was getting cooked by Jokic. Like Montrezl Harrell lost money off that series. You made no adjustments throughout the course of the series. And then you see Ty Lue being able to take the Clippers to the conference finals immediately with a similar roster, even though you did add a Serge Ibaka, but Serge Ibaka didn't even play in the playoffs. So these are the types of things when I was like, you know what? Doc Rivers isn't a bad coach. I don't even think you could say that Doc Rivers isn't a good coach. I think Doc Rivers is actually a really good coach for teams that have no expectation. Right? If you think about his career, every time a team never had expectation, he performed well with them. The Clippers before Kawhi and PG, you know what I'm saying? And now you look at the Philly team, and we're going to see now he has his expectation. And I believe Daryl Morey is going to look for anything to fire him and replace him with Mike D'Antoni. Say what you want to say about Mike D'Antoni. He's gotten teams to multiple conference finals. So I know it was long-winded, but I just kind of had to shed some light because it was on my heart. And I was like, I like Rivers as a man. I think he has the most integrity, him and Popovich and Monty Williams in this league. But in terms of, I think, some of the strategic things and the adjustments, I think that's where his faults are. You know what I'm saying? But all these coaches on this list actually have some fault. But I just think his might stand out a little bit more, if that makes sense. You feel what I'm saying? So, yeah. I'm sorry, bro. It was time consuming, but
yeah. People that made the list, but they weren't, or people that didn't make the list. Like, I do think that Eric Spoelstra is an amazing coach. I'm not going to sit here and take anything away from him, but I do think like at a certain point when you start to look at some of the players that certain people had with, like George Karl being left off the list is wild to me.
Oh wow! I know a lot of people don't like George Karl.
I get it. But there's people I'm not a big fan of, but it doesn't matter how I feel about them. Like, it's the truth. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Future, but if you're gonna do a Mount Rushmore of the last 10 years, you're hating by leaving him off.
You are.
It just is what it is. The influence, the impact, and numbers speak for themselves. Like, so it's like at a certain point, George Karl is sixth in wins, and he's above Larry Brown, Phil Jackson, Doc Rivers, and Red Auerbach in wins.
Was Don Nelson on the list?
Don Nelson is on the list.
Okay, continue. I just want to.
When you're gonna have this person is above them in wins, and if you go through a list of the players that he had, it doesn't even come like Red Auerbach. I'm not here to say anything, but you got to think about this.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Like at a certain point, I get it because it's one of those things where Doc Rivers, I do kind of give him credit. Like you said, the teams with no expectations is what he does the most with. But it's like at a certain point, are you a good coach? Or are you benefiting from the fact that you have really good players? Yeah. Like Phil Jackson coached Scottie Pippen. He coached Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, Horace Grant twice. Shaq, Kobe, Shaq. Pau Gasol with Kobe, with Andrew Bynum and Lamar Odom all on the same squad. Right. At a certain point, you better win 10 championships.
Right.
With all like literally. And so it's like I do think at a certain point you still got to have that conversation of like I would really like to go through it and really sit down and look at your best teams and what you did with it, and then look and see at what and really rank them that way. Like I'm thinking eventually I'm probably going to want to do a even if it's a 20-30 minute segment on top 15 coaches. Yeah. Because we're going to rank the 75. And if there's people that we missed, we can pretty much we'll go through our ranking and we can do it at that point because I felt like ours was kind of rushed because we ran out of players without actually thinking about the list. Even though I was trying to tell y'all we're running out of players.
You're like, bro, we only have like 6 players.
I was just saying, bro, there's 10 spots left and 6 players. At some point you got to throw somebody on there. Facts. But it's like I do think at a certain point you still got to have that conversation. You got to be real. And it's cool, man. Like it's the game evolves, the game changes. Coaches got better. Games, certain game plans work with they don't work against others, and it's like you got to really sit down. You got to think about those things because, like I think too often we give coaches credit, but it's like at the end of the day, unless you did this amazing coaching job, like I'll give Eric Spoelstra the credit for getting that Heat team to the finals.
Yeah.
But it's
I
actually
think he's actually a really good coach, though.
Yeah. Right, I do too.
But I get what you're saying. I get where you're coming from.
I give him credit for taking those Heat teams that had LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But thank you all for watching. Make sure you follow us continue to follow us on Facebook. For my people that's watching, make sure you follow us on YouTube. The He Say She Say channel. That name will be changing soon. Make sure you follow me on TikTok, Instagram, as well as Twitch at KYNGRALPH. Follow our Instagram page, J.U.K. Sports Show.
And you can follow me on Instagram at the.houseofhoops. Once again, that's at the.houseofhoops for NBA news, highlights, player, and team analysis. And
we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to discuss some things. I think it's the ESPN has ranked the NBA's top 75, and we're going to discuss some things we very much disagree with. But thank you all for watching. Come back, check on us in 10 minutes. Peace out.